Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monty if you're new here, and today is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge type of video. I could probably separate this into two different ones or even three different ones, but I didn't feel like doing that. So here is what this is gonna look like. First, I'm gonna tell you about everything that I read in February. I read 3 books, start to finish. Then I'm gonna tell you briefly about what my March reading has looked like so far and what I'm hoping to get to in the second half of the month. And then finally, I do have a little bit of a book haul for you, which if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you would know is super rare for me. I'm a library girl through and through, but I did recently acquire some books that I am so excited to talk about and share with you. So that is how we're going to wrap up this whole thing. Starting with my February reading wrap up, the first book that I read last month is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. This story follows the Salt family who lives on this remote island near Antarctica that has primarily been used as a research base. But at the start of the book, we find out that the scientists on this island are no longer there. It is just this family of 4 and no one else. The island is also home to one of the world's most important seed banks, which the family is responsible for protecting. If you don't know what a seed bank is, it is essentially a vault of seeds that is being protected for future use in the case of some kind of ecological disaster where food sources and plant life need to be replenished. The book opens up with the daughter of this family discovering a woman's body washed up onto the shore barely alive. And immediately this raises questions on both sides. The family is wondering how this woman possibly got there. This isn't the kind of place that you stumble upon. It's on its way to nowhere. And the woman, Rowan, upon regaining consciousness, is just as confused. As far as she knew, this island was home to a full research operation with scientists and staff. Instead, she wakes up to an island that is almost completely abandoned, except for this unfamiliar family. From there, the story leans heavily into paranoia and mystery and environmental disaster. There's a lot of discussion about climate change, which is kind of a signature theme of Charlotte McConaghy's books. I left this book feeling quite conflicted by the end of it. On the one hand, I was really intrigued by the setup. I loved the setting and the overall atmosphere of the story. I was especially into the nature descriptions. Several times I found myself Googling the different plant and animal species that were mentioned throughout the book, and that was really fun. But on the whole, I don't think that this landed for me the way that it did for others. It's hard for me to explain exactly why without getting into spoilers, so I'm gonna try and be as vague as I possibly can be. The constant skepticism and distrust between the two parties got pretty tiring after a while. A lot of the tension came from people unnecessarily withholding information, and I thought that the mystery of it all could have been easily solved with some simple conversations. Because of that, the relationships between the characters didn't feel as strong to me as they probably should have, and as a result, the ending, the crazy ending that everyone talks about, didn't impact me emotionally the way that I know it was meant to. That is just one woman's opinion. Most people absolutely loved this story. I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read The Giver by Lois Lowry, a childhood classic, a book that I was assigned to read in either the 6th or 7th grade. And as an adult, it held up. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. To me, this is the perfect book to either get you back into reading if you've taken some time away from it, or to get you out of a reading slump if you are an active reader. For most people, this would be a reread, which is nice because you're familiar enough with the concept, but maybe you don't remember all of the nitty-gritty details. It's written for middle schoolers, so it's easy to read, it's short, you can finish it in a day. and it's just a great story. The Giver is a dystopian novel that follows a young boy named Jonas who lives in this society where everyone has been stripped of their individuality, of their choice, in exchange for security. Everything in the society is very orderly, very structured. Each family unit looks exactly the same with one mother, one father, one son, and one daughter, and everyone is prescribed their occupation. They don't get a say in it. At the start of the book, our protagonist, Jonas, is about to turn 12, the age at which members in this community are given their job assignment. And this decision that is made on behalf of Jonas is the catalyst for the rest of the story. This is a classic for a reason. You know, there is so much to mull over, so much to discuss, and I am really glad that I chose to read this again. It's not a 5-star for me as an adult, just because in the last 20 years since I first read it, I have come across other dystopian stories that have hit me harder, but that doesn't take away from what a great book this is. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to. And the last book that I read in February is The Compound by Aisling Rawle. Another dystopian type of story. I must have been in some kind of mood last month, but similar to Wild Dark Shore, this book seemingly takes place in the future. It frequently alludes to environmental disaster and global instability, but we are never outright told what's going on. In The Compound, we are reading from the perspective of our main character, Lily, who is a contestant on a reality TV show that is a cross between Survivor and Love Island. The contestants all wake up inside of this compound in the middle of the desert, and they have to work together to make the place livable. They can complete these group challenges to earn basic necessities like food and water and building materials, but they can also perform personal tasks to win luxury items like jewelry and makeup and designer clothing and things of that nature. There is, of course, also a dating element that is woven in that I found to be a little bit less interesting than everything else. Now, I watch my fair share of reality TV. I just finished the most recent season of Love is Blind. I'm currently watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and starting very soon here, I will be tuning in every single week to watch the newest season of The Bachelorette. But what I love more than watching the shows is listening to recaps afterwards. I live for the analysis. I love to decipher the motives behind different contestants' actions, and also to see if other viewers read a situation in the same way that I did. And I think that that is why I enjoyed this book the way that I did, because I got to actually live inside the mind of a reality TV show contestant and see what drove her decisions. As you can imagine, there was a lot of commentary in here about performance culture and capitalism and consumerism, but something that I learned is that the pursuit of luxury is not always tied to the pursuit of wealth or social status. It can also be a means of escapism, a way to ignore the harsh realities of the world. And that circles back to why people like me even indulge in reality TV shows in the first place. And that was something that was really interesting for me to explore. I had a good time with this. I'd say it sits around a 3.75 or thereabouts. There were some pacing issues for me, and by the time I got to the end of the book, I was ready for it to be over. I can 100% see why this wouldn't be a success for everyone. Given the premise, one might expect a lot of high stakes and action and drama, and while there are certainly some unhinged moments in here, this is overall a thought experiment, a character study. Everything is not wrapped up in a neat little bow. You're not going to get answers to all your questions. So if that's what you're looking for, I would steer clear. So that is everything that I read in February. Moving into March, I'm going to be very brief with this because you'll get my more detailed thoughts in my March reading wrap up, but I like to let you know what you can expect. So the only book that I've finished this month is Game Changer by Rachel Reed, which is the first book in the series that the TV show Heated Rivalry is based off of. Really, the only thing that I want to say about this is if you're considering picking up the audiobook, skip it. Trust me. Outside of Game Changer, I have not yet finished any other books this month, but I am currently in the middle of two different nonfictions. The first is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I'm around 40% of the way through, and so far I only have positive things to say about it. The second book that I'm in the middle of that I will not be finishing in March is Battle Cry of Freedom by James McPherson. So I have jumped onto the bandwagon of the personal curriculum trend. I think it's great. If you don't know what it is, I will leave a couple of videos down below for you to check out that explain it really well. But essentially, I have decided I want to learn about the Civil War, and this book is helping me to do that. I am around 100 pages into it. I'm reading it in very bite-sized chunks, no more than 5 pages at a time. And it has been a really rewarding experience. Again, I will not be finishing this in March, but I am reading it right now, so I wanted to share it. Because I'm in the middle of 2 nonfiction books, I would love to get to another fiction before the end of the month, but I don't really know what I'm in the mood for yet. I'm thinking I might need to pick up a romance to break up all of the dense information that I'm reading, but I'm also open to other genres. I don't know yet. So you will just have to be surprised in my March reading wrap up. Okay, now let's talk about my book haul. The first book that I bought back in December, I found on sale for $10 at my local bookstore, which I was so thrilled about because this has been on my radar for a while, and that is Independence by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. This was first brought to my attention by Gabby from Gabby Likes to Read. I absolutely love her videos. She always highlights books that I don't hear anyone else talking about, including this one. So I'm going to link her channel down below for you to go check out, and you definitely should. From what I know, and I know very little, this is about 3 sisters who are living in India as the country is fighting for its independence from Britain. I'm ashamed to say, given my heritage, that I know very little about this period in history, but I'm hoping to learn more, and I think that this will be a great jumping off point for me. Another book that I found on sale at the same bookstore is The Way of Bach by Dan Mahler. This is a book that I had never heard about prior to purchasing it. I just saw it and my interest was immediately piqued. It's described as a tale of passion and obsession from a philosophy professor who teaches himself to play Bach on the piano. When I moved into this house back in June, it actually came with a piano. So I hired a professional to come and tune it. And for the last 2 to 3 months, I have been teaching myself to play the piano every single day. So I just thought that this would really resonate with me. The next book that I purchased is Theo of Golden by Alan Levy. I have been seeing this book all over the place. Every bookstore that I walk into, it is front and center in the bestseller section, and I have to know what all the hype is about. It sounds like a super heartwarming story about an older gentleman who moves into a new town and performs all of these small acts of kindness. Since buying this, I've found out that it's technically classified under Christian fiction, And I'm not particularly religious, but I am going to go into it with an open mind. The next two books I got from Barnes & Noble. A patient of mine knew how much I love to read and got me a gift card to the store, which I thought was so thoughtful. So these were totally free for me. Amazing. And the first book that I chose is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This is one of the 3 classics that I want to read this year. I think I'm gonna start with it. Actually, it also was 40% off because the front cover is ripped and then taped back together, but I couldn't care less. I will always take the deal, and you can't even tell unless you're looking up close. I wanted to buy the physical copy because I cannot fathom reading a classic like this on my Kindle. For some reason, that feels so wrong, like it wasn't at all what John Steinbeck intended when he wrote this pre-modern technology. My goal is to read this, or at least start reading this, in April. The final book that I bought is Challenger by Adam Higginbotham. Anytime I read either a sci-fi or a historical fiction about space exploration, I always wish that I knew more about the subject from a nonfiction standpoint. And this book has won so many awards. It's also highly praised by one of my favorite booktubers, Audrey from Audrey Approved, whose nonfiction book recommendations I trust with my whole heart. I will link her channel down below. So I just know that this is going to be fantastic. So there is my beautiful little book haul. And that's it for today's video. If you watched all the way through, thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.